stage. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you both for being here. Thank you, Web Summit, for the invitation. So so it's a quick panel, so let's get into the main subject. Brazil, from 2022 to 2023, leaped 14 positions in the World Financial Inclusion Index. And I would like to know from both of you, what do you think are the key factors that drove this huge leap in just 1 year? Gabby, if you want to, would you like to start?
Thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited. Rio is my hometown, so I'm very happy to be here talking about financial inclusion. I think Brazil is really a big country, and we know the challenges that we still have regarding financial inclusion. We cannot talk about financial inclusion without talking about the pandemic. I think one of the key factors that made us get here with the financial inclusion, to increase the financial inclusion in Brazil, was unfortunately from one side the pandemic, right? But for the other side, I think we as DOC, for example, we are a B2B company that provides infrastructure for the companies to accept and to get financial inclusion, because we provide all the infrastructure, the technology infrastructure, to get the companies to offer the services. So to have digital accounts, to have access to credit. So I think this is a very important key factor as well. And also, central bank, the Brazilian central bank, has a very important mission and a very important push regarding a good competition market, regarding pushing us to be competitive and to get where we are getting with products and services for the Brazilian population. What do you think about Michael?
So delighted to be here. Axion is a global nonprofit dedicated to creating a financially inclusive world. We started out in microfinance, but in the last dozen years or so, we're a very active early stage fintech investor in financial inclusion. And in addition to investing in early stage fintechs, we also have a think tank, and our think tank does a lot of policy work. And I have to say the Brazilian regulators have real vision and have really executed brilliantly. It starts with Pix for sure. And Pix went from nothing to now it is the fastest growing payment system in the world. Literally 30% of all transactions in Brazil are now happening on Pix. And then if you look around the rest of the world, UPI is the Indian version of Pix. And this is a stunning statistic. 40% of the world's transactions, not just India's, 40% of the world's transactions are happening on their, their payments interface. So between Pix and UPI, and now several other countries are following suit, there's a revolution going on called digital public infrastructure, where governments are making these investments. But I think the Brazil Central Bank has a lot to be very proud of. They've also increased competition. They've also opened up APIs. They're now working on a central bank digital currency. There's lots to do, but they have gone from almost everyone has access in Brazil, and that was not the case just 5 years ago. So the leadership is very, very impressive.
Great. But in the fintech world, there's a lot of talk about innovation, but sometimes the rhythm of adoption doesn't always match the rhythm of the companies are innovating. So and Pix is a good example of how quick the new technology was adopted by the public. So I'd like to know from you, how can we bridge that gap that make people adopt new technologies quicker and have more inclusion? Because just for example, Nubank, it started here in Brazil in 2013, but in 2020 they had like 25 million customers, and now they just jumped for almost 100 million. So this delay, why this innovation took so long to catch on? Why does it take? There's a problem in communication. What is your take on that?
Well, talking about business, I believe we cannot talk about financial inclusion without talking about education, right? And then we really still have a lot of challenges regarding education in Brazil. But I think from a couple of years, from now, the customer now engaged more. And then we started talking about how the customer has the right to choose, and the customer became more engaged with this, and the companies became more engaged with giving the solution to the customer. So, for example, at DOC, what we provide is the technology and the infrastructure for Natura, for example, to go to with thousands and thousands of consultants and having their digital accounts and their digital life in an app. With Bemol, we go to Amazonia, that is a place that nobody goes, and then we provide financial services in Amazonia. So this is something that we didn't see in 5 years ago. So this is, I think, the technology comes, the infrastructure investment comes, and then the people engage to the technology and to all the solutions that we can provide as companies to the customers.
The way you frame the question is, why does it take so long? I actually think it's the speed of the PIX revolution in particular has been astronomical. In any new technology, you always have the early adopters, and then it takes a little while. But to get to scale, you think of those curves. PIX has gotten to scale in part because I think it was planned and executed very, very well. As terrible as the pandemic was, the pandemic did a lot around the entire world to move people away from cash and to digital transactions. There's a statistic, something like 160 governments introduced over 400 new cash transfer programs during the pandemic.
Wow.
And they were overwhelmingly digital and delivered digitally to people who had never been on digital systems before. So as terrible as the pandemic was, it was actually great for digital acceptance. A lot of what we do is we invest in companies that are riding on these rails. These are the new rails. And I want to tie it together and just say data is by its nature inclusive. Why do people get shut out? Why, in the old world, to get credit, you had to already have assets and you had to already have repaid a loan. And it wasn't that other people were bad credits, it's they were invisible. We are making people visible with data analytics, artificial intelligence. That's the revolution, and it's very, very exciting. And I think the pace is super fast.
Oh. And I would like to compliment, I don't know if you agree with me, Michael, but PIX as well is a very easy tool, right?
Yes.
So even for those people that are not that educated can access PIX and can operate with PIX and can find themselves included in the system. So this is the magic about the system, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And talking specifically about Brazil, what do you think comes next to even improve the numbers on financial inclusion here? You can talk from an infrastructure standpoint, and what you've been seeing, like open finance, Drex, a lot of innovation going on here in Brazil, and Brazil is also getting very known outside in other countries as an innovator in financial services. What do you see next to even improve financial inclusion?
I think, again, I'm a big fan of the Brazilian Central Bank is one of the best in the world. And they know there's much more to do. So something like a third of Brazilians have a negative rating in the credit bureau. That clearly means there's a need for education and better design of products. There's also still a very significant 6 or 7% gender gap. So somehow we're discriminating, we're not including women effectively. And also credit. The interest rates here are just higher than they are in the entire rest of the world. So as much as the central bank has done to create innovation and competition, there's much more to do, because we should see working capital interest rates should hopefully move to global averages. They're an outlier today. So there's a lot more to do. One other thing is this year, as many will know, the G20 is convening in Brazil. Our think tank works with the G20 and runs a conference called the Responsible Finance Forum. So in Fortaleza, in their first week in July, 200 of the top thought leaders around the world will be gathering to talk about exactly this. What are the obstacles? What are the solutions? What can we all learn from each other? So I think there's a lot that Brazil can be proud of. There's also a lot that Brazil can learn from, and I think the G20 forum will be a good moment for that.
Well, he stole my answer.
Of course.
No, I'm joking, but of course, we cannot talk about next steps without talking about credit. But if we face and focus a little bit about infrastructure, so as we at DOC, our slogan, our tagline is spread financial power. So, and we can spread financial power through being first movers. So we really believe that seeking for new technologies, seeking for new partnerships, learning from other countries, learning from each other, and learning from how the market can develop itself more and faster, so the companies can provide more services. For example, embedded finance. We really believe in embedded finance, so we can go through retailers, we can grow, and we can be able to bring the people, not just through banking, and of course through credit, because credit is also a very, very important tool. We cannot talk about financial inclusion without talking about credit. It's something that it's impossible to talk about, and we still have to learn a lot in Brazil how to lend and how to understand the behavior of the population, because they really need the credit even more. And we believe that we have to help not just the big companies to get there and to get the infrastructure, but as also the startups and the small companies and the entrepreneurs that we have in Brazil, mostly women. We know that women, it's a great, great power in entrepreneurship in Brazil, and they need help to organize their business and to grow. And then that's how we believe the inclusion we will get through embedded finance in the next few years.
Maybe I'll pick up, if I can, on this notion of embedded finance is very, very exciting and really opens up a whole new opportunity for the future. In the world of financial inclusion, it used to be, in the world of finance generally, you had to go to a financial service provider to get financial services. You had to go to a bank. You had to go to a microfinance institution or a fintech. With embedded finance, you can start leveraging consumer goods and networks that reach out to very small mom and pop shops in extremely remote locations. You can leverage platforms, and you can leverage the data that they have. And if you see the soap, the detergent, the milk, the beer that those small shops are selling, all of a sudden they become visible, and you can give them working capital credit, which can be transformational. So for our organization, not only are we an investor and a think tank, but we're also we do technical assistance. This can change who we work with, what we do when we work with them, and ultimately who we can reach. That's the good side. One more point. Here's the downside. All of a sudden, you're going to have companies that are not financial service providers providing financial services. What could possibly go wrong with that? It's actually very dangerous. At least when you have banks, microfinance institutions, and even fintechs, you understand that you're providing financial services. These consumer good companies are stretching themselves into a new world, and it's opaque. There can be over-indebtedness. There can be bad consumer practices. So there's a lot we have to figure out here. But it's exciting.
But let me give you an example about that. We're just partnership with Jaé, that it's the company that is providing in Rio here the card for the metro and for the buses. Yeah. So we are starting with enabling this access to the public transportation. So it's just a card that he starts with this, and then after he can get credit, and then he can get it's moving one step at a time. Yep. So this partnership with Jaé and the City Hall, it's amazing, because we'll provide for millions of customers a card that starts with the public transportation, but can grow and can improve the basic features of the card, so it can improve inclusion, the financial inclusion through the card.
That's fantastic. I'll give you one other example. Yeah. So we were talking about embedded finance. Another area that we're very excited about is ag tech and agri-tech. And when I talk about 2 billion people being left out of the global financial system, 2/3 of them are smallholder farmers. And for many years, we really didn't see that much innovation. But now, in the last few years, we're seeing spectacular innovation in new technologies helping those. So, for example, global satellite imagery in the last few years has gotten really high quality and really cheap. And several of our portfolio companies are using that data to see You can see when there's a drought. You can see when there's a flood. You can monitor soil condition. You can monitor cloud coverage. You can provide agronomic advice, all to extremely rural, remote, 1-acre family farms. All of a sudden, you can provide insurance and working capital to people who have, the banking system has never had any interest in. So the moment of innovation is very exciting.
Awesome. There's a lot of talk about that for like the second wave or the third wave of financial service. First, it was all about experience. Now it's to take this experience everywhere. But wrap things up here. I'd like to know from you, Michael, you that watch a lot of markets all around the world, if financial inclusion in different markets, and your experience working at DOC. What Brazil can learn from other countries in terms of financial inclusion, and what Brazil can teach other countries in that subject?
Well, I think this hosting the G20 is a perfect exchange where I know because we're planning the agenda, we will showcase what Brazil has done right, but also invite people from around the world to say, what can you do better? And there are real issues. We're far away. Again, we're here in Rio. All of us take for granted a financial system that works pretty well for us. But for 2 billion people, that global financial system fails. I think in Brazil specifically, payments, I think they've really figured out. But I think we have a lot more work to do on credit. Insurance is almost non-existent. And I do think all of this is a natural thing. Again, you're talking about the pace. I think payments comes first. Mm-hmm. You've got to get people used to the system. And then a lot of what we invest in are the higher forms of financial services that can ride on those rails. I think there's a lot to learn. I'll tell you one, we're all using algorithms and data analytics to reach people. Those algorithms can also be biased. We have to figure that out. I'll let my.
No, I think we are all over. DOC is all over Latin America, so we learn from. But in the end of the day, it's all about the customer needs and it's all about the company needs, right? The company wants to sell more. The customer wants the merchant or the good or the service and wants to have a financial inclusion that provides him a good life. So I think that we can learn from all of these countries, and then we can learn with each other how we can do this, make this an example, because we still have a lot of challenges regarding financial inclusion, even in Brazil. Even if we are far, we are very, very developed. We still have a lot of things to learn from each other.
Awesome. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, Gabby, for this wonderful panel here, and thank you all of you for being here with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.